leave your name and I'm out the beef, I get with you.
Pick up the phone.
Leave your name and I'm out the beef, I get with you.
Pick up the phone.
Everywhere I go, it's another show, it's another party, it's another hoe. And everywhere I go, it's another homie, it's another drinking, it's another room.
When you hear them,
Yo, what's up? This is Kels. I'm in right now. Leave your name and I'm out the beef, I get with you.
pick up the phone. When you hear them,
Yo, what's up? This is Kels. I'm in right now. Leave your name and I'm out the beef, I get with you.
Over the course of history, there have been many different forms of payment systems, including barter, gold, and paper currency. In the mid-20th century, charge cards debuted. Ever since then, pundits have been predicting the demise of cash and the emergence of a cashless society. A cashless economy is simply at its prime when all means of payments are carried out without the use of physical cash.
When you migrate your transactions to a cashless environment, that is the kind of thing that we will not hear about in the society, in the economy. Because what you're going to have is automated means, electronic means of effecting transactions. So you have your cash in a card, a simple card, a debit card, credit card, as the case may be.
A lot of transactions that today are being done by default in a cash mode will increasingly be done electronically. And that's great because today, fortunately, technology is able to support that kind of transactions. But equally importantly, customers are feeling the benefit of those kind of transactions.
Payments will range from a list of options such as checks, wire transfers, debit and credit cards, online transactions, and mobile banking. It was in this consciousness that the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, the apex regulatory body of the Nigeria banking sector, came up with the reform policy to check the increasing dominance of cash in the economy in order to enhance e-payment system in the economic landscape and to meet the target of becoming one of the leading world economies by the year 2020.
In terms of the regulatory push, CBN has done a lot of work. They have gone beyond their normal regulatory ambit to engage the stakeholders. We're talking about the merchants, the acquirers, banks. They've engaged the members of the public. There have been several advocacy groups and awareness campaigns held in various locations in the country.
Compared to the rest of the world as it relates to payments, Nigeria is still in the era of the Wild West.
Managing the cost of processing cash, you need huge vaults to keep the cash, you need staff to process the cash, you need counters, counting machines, bill detectors to know which bills are fake and genuine, etc. etc. There's a huge cost to processing cash. Add on top of that the cost of infrastructure. You need power, you need physical space, etc. It is heavy. When we migrate to a cashless society, again, all of these issues will be addressed. And then even the banks who are a major player in this sector will be able to provide service to customers even at a lower cost.
If you look at the cost of cash in transit, counting the money, putting it into the banking system, when you take it out, counting it again, when it's going from the supermarket, counting it again, even change and holding up the queue, and they can't find the change. Many countries in the world have gone way beyond that.
It does offer quite a lot of advantages. I'm sure everybody will say, okay, you reduce cash in, but I think that is even the least of what you can offer. If we really are able to put in a cashless economy, it also means that we can track transactions.
Let me take Ghana as an example. So in Ghana, they don't have an ID card system, just like us, but they did a very good voters registration exercise. So many adults have a voters card, proper voters card that looks like a debit card. I'm not talking about the paper which we were given in this last voting exercise. This is a card. It's like a driver's license, nice voter's card. So when you go to the bank, you won't believe it. The voter's card is now serving like an ID card. when you go to the bank to know that you are Don Pedro, they'll say, okay, put in your voter's card here. When you put it in, it has your biometrics. Say, okay, you are. So they're not asking you for driver's license. They're not asking you for passport because the voter's card suffices, And it then gives them the opportunity to go stronger into cashless.
And as the CBN prepares Nigeria for a rough transition into a cashless economy, experts say they must put into consideration these factors: the Nigerian culture, the role of its government, the state of infrastructure, the level of general education, the availability of real data, the amount of investments made and needed, security as it relates to laws, confidence in the system, internal and external, and insurance and private issues, to mention a few.
When you take away physical cash and you migrate to automated processing environment, then ICT takes a center stage. It becomes critical because transactions can now be implemented from your telephones, telephone banking, from your computers, through internet banking, and then from your POS terminals for purchasing of products across our cities, and payment for services, etc. So all stakeholders, the key stakeholders, have a role to play in ensuring that the infrastructure that is required is available. All the banks, for instance, they must have their servers ready, they must have their networks, must have good, robust networks in place, and very importantly, these networks must be secure. Because once you have a network that is not secure, then there's a problem.
The challenge now is for all Nigerians to brace up for this new era in our economic development, and for the deposit money banks to put in place necessary operational infrastructure to cope with the anticipated upsurge in the number of bank customers.
In terms of network, for any POS to work, you must have a robust network infrastructure. POSs, they run on GPRS, which is the most effective mechanism for deployment. So infrastructure-wise, we are ready. In terms of manpower, I would say we are partially ready because the expertise required for us to manage and also deliver the cashless policy is critical. From the regulatory perspective or from the enabling law, we are lucky that the National Assembly have passed the Evidence Act 2011 into law, which empowers the use of electronic generated receipt and document as evidence in court. So this would have been a major impediment, but that has been done. But there are some caveats in that regulation, which we'll discuss as part of the challenge. But again, the laws are there that will enable us to deliver.
As with every new thing, every new scheme or project, you always have a challenge of pushback. Some people would resist it. People don't like change. That's normal human behavior. We like to be in our comfort zone. Whatever we've been doing for the past 10, 20, 30 years, it's not easy to change. So I see that first of all, the pushback, which is what the awareness engagement activities try to address. Now, will that be wiped out completely, 100%? I doubt. There may be one or two pockets of resistance here and there, but all of that again would be handled with continuous awareness activities.
I think the technology has been there, has always been there. What really has been the issue is adoption. And that's why I'm saying we have not looked at why was the adoption slow and then address that adoption with incentives. What we have done rather is to do a fiat and say you must do this by this date.
With mobile money and with ATMs, for those that must touch cash, plethora of ATMs that the government is trying to encourage the banks to put out, with the point of sale system and cards, ATM cards, or debit cards, or credit cards, there's really no excuse to say we are not ripe for cashless.
So I think we are seeing an economic environment which is in transition, And the important thing is that as a segment of the population moves into an electronic mode, where they do less of cash and more of electronic transactions, banks should recognize that segment of their population, that segment of their customer base, and should be able to have the right technologies in place to be able to leverage those opportunities. From that point of view, certainly I think Nigeria has a segment of its customer base, of its population, which is moving in that direction.
But how ready are Nigerian banks for this policy?
He that observeth the wind shall not sow. So if you keep waiting for everything to be ready before you begin to move and migrate to a cashless environment, then we will never do it. So we need to take the bold step, even now, with the current level of infrastructure, with the current level of power in the country, current level of road network, CTC, we move, we take the bold step. And then, before we get there, a few things have to be put in place. And I believe that the central bank and other stakeholders are working assiduously to ensure that at least the minimal level of infrastructure that is required is in place before we eventually implement the cashless society.
I think the debate about whether or not should give way to the debate about how can we painlessly do it.
Name and I'm out the beef, I get with
Pick
you.
up the phone.
Your name and I'm out the beef, I get with you.
Pick up the phone.